Bills Mafia, again, the reigning MVP will not take a single snap in preseason. Sean McDermott is putting number 17 on ice, and he's not taking him out of the cooler until week 1 of the regular season. And sportsbooks, regardless of him not playing, are keeping him among the top rated guys or the top odds for winning the NFL MVP for a second potential consecutive year. And the offensive line of the Buffalo Bills is steadier, the weapons are deeper, and here's a twist. That is unfortunate that we're going to talk about more tomorrow is that our secondary is thin and shaky, and a guy like Trey White had an injury, and we're gonna have to talk about that more. But this could actually ultimately force Josh Allen to light up the stat sheet early to try to throw the team on his back as much as he can. But once again, it's summer, we're going into fall, and the Bills are back in the spotlight with everything to prove. And so we got to get into it and we got to talk about it. But this is Crack the Table. I'm Colin, where we're all Bills and no breaks. I'm just here to add a little joy, perspective, and value into your football fandom. And hopefully, if this video does that, if this time does that, just make sure to hit the like and subscribe. It keeps this fan-driven channel going. But again, let's get right into it. So for the first time in Josh Allen's career, he's not taking a preseason snap. Yeah, we've seen a couple series, a couple drives historically, but McDermott's confirmed it, and that's not caution. That's really, I think, a confidence in him as a quarterback. You know, his QB1 resume last year and was incredible, right? He had almost 64% completion percentage on his passes, and he's not throwing a ton of dink and dunks like some of these other quarterbacks are. He's throwing the ball over the middle of the field and even down the field at times. He had 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions, over 500 rushing yards, and the big one of 12 rushing touchdowns. That's MVP level math, and that's MVP level stats, right? The books have him next to Lamar, to Mahomes, and even Burrow kind of rounding out the top 4 with MVP odds, depending again on which sports book you look at. But of course, an MVP resume and MVP performances don't really mean anything if your team is not pushing deeper and deeper into the playoffs. But not only do they not mean anything if you don't push in the playoffs, they don't mean anything unless the foundation around you is built successfully. And in Buffalo, the piece that is quietly helping Josh Allen but not getting all that stardom recognition is actually our front offensive line. It's the guys up front that are in the trenches, and they are seriously like the unsung heroes, the unsung engine of this offense that keeps Josh Allen clean. It keeps our run game going. It keeps our pass game going. But Buffalo has kept its entire offensive line intact and spent the entire actually training camp fine-tuning calls and timing. And actually, we might be poised for a better offensive year than we were even last year as a result of just our offensive line being healthy, intact, and ready to roll going into this season. If you just want to just take a gander at a crazy stat, the Buffalo Bills offensive line last year only gave up 14 sacks, which I believe quarterback sacks are both a quarterback stat and they're a line stat. But this 14 sacks on the QB, it was the fewest sacks since 2009 in the NFL. Cleaner pockets oftentimes equal calmer decisions and fewer low percentage throws across the middle and down the field, which then, even just thinking about the extra receiver help that we've added and growth from a second year first rounder like Keon Coleman, and even the development and I think lack of injuries for a guy like Dalton Kincaid, it could lead to a really great scenario where Josh Allen himself has a year that he himself, again, has never seen before. Continuity up front is an MVP's best friend. It turns the hero ball that I think we're kind of prone to see in Josh Allen in must-win situations into easy first downs, into great consistency when we need it. And we're going to talk about hero ball a little bit more in a little bit. But again, this isn't a one-star kind of football team. We've got a bunch of guys on our receiving core that have really started to make a name for themselves. Of Keon Coleman, he's got his size on the outside, which I think we're going to see a great leap in development in. Khalil Shakir is just a slot merchant who's just been doing such good work in there. Again, if Dalton Kincaid wasn't as injured, I think, as he was last year, I think his top 5 receiving tight end ceiling potentially would have been met. And we've got guys now like Curtis Samuel and Josh Palmer to round it out. Again, when defenses can't tilt towards like one receiver or one tight end, and they've got a James Cook now in the running back to handle or to think through. There's going to be fewer giveaways. There's going to be more surgical throws. There's going to be more even specific, precise runs around the outside for Allen or throwing down the middle of the field. But I guess a question that's in my mind, and I think I've got a good idea of what the answer is or who it's going to be. But the question for us is this today, and just drop this in your comments: is who leads the team in targets? Honestly, James Cook comes to mind really simply, but we're not going to see a running back with 120 targets. Palmer, maybe he's going to probably get a lot more down the field looks. Coleman, maybe. Shakir probably in the slot's probably going to get the most targets, I think. But maybe Kincaid also. Maybe Kincaid hits that 7 to 10 targets a game. But here's the thing, Bills fans. As incredible as Josh Allen's MVP was last year, and as much as we want to see that again, it's not the trophy we care about, and it's not even the award I think he cares about. The Lombardi is the one that's real. The Lombardi is the one that we really want. And if you gave us a choice as the Bills Mafia to say, hey, do we want another 5 years of Josh Allen getting the MVP, which would cement him as one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback of all time, or if we could host a Lombardi, I think in a heartbeat, we would say we want the Lombardi because we want the parade down Delaware Avenue, right? Both would be sweet for sure. But MVP without a Super Bowl feels empty, and especially given our history, we don't need to talk about it, but we want the Super Bowl. And with a banged up secondary going into 2025, we might actually see Josh Allen put together the type of season to win him another MVP while also maintaining the opportunity to once again hoist the Lombardi. Josh Allen could put up Madden type numbers and get the attention of voters throughout the year. But the real question is like, does that actually put us closer to hoisting and raising the Lombardi in February? Right? Tomorrow, I think we need to really talk about our depth and our secondary and its implications and some of the most recent news that's coming out. But Trey White, we know left camp with an injury or left practice. He was carted off, and some people have been talking about being carted off as, that was terrible. He couldn't even walk. But no, he could walk. And people are saying he was carted off, I think specifically because it was a longer walk to where they needed to go. But we also know someone like Maxwell Hairston, which I'll talk about tomorrow, like he's got to show up later this season, or else I think we're going to really be in for a hurting from some of these good offensive powerhouse teams in the AFC. But if the DB room stays thin, Buffalo, I think, just naturally is going to get dragged into some of these shootouts. And shootouts mean volume, and volume often means first downs, and touchdowns vault the conversation back into the courts of Josh Allen for a potential 2025 MVP. We can call this ultimately Breeze math, right? When the defense leaks, elite quarterbacks become stat machines week in and week out. But again, I think the question that we have to ask ourselves as Bills fans is this the type of season we actually want to have? Yes, of course we want Josh Allen to be really good and to win the MVP, but if it comes at the cost of him putting himself in sketchy or scarier positions, throwing the ball 40 times a week and trying to rush in touchdowns every single week and running through linebackers and defensive linemen week in, week out, I don't think we want that. We don't want to risk injury to him. We might have the MVP fireworks and cool plays and highlights and posters and all these things, but last year we saw some level of balance where he was a gunslinger and also he had some precision, right? But we don't want to put Josh Allen in a position where he has to throw and run and play at an MVP level week in and week out. Yes, we want to see it, but no, we want to be able to say, okay, let's throw Trubisky in there, or let's throw White in there, or something like that. We want to cheer for Josh Allen's success, but we also realize, and I think this is the national media's criticism of the Buffalo Bills, especially their offense week in and week out, or year in and year out rather, is we don't want to put him in a position that he has to do everything. We don't want Josh Allen to carry the team on his back when he doesn't have to. We don't want him to be injured or overburdened just trying to make a playoff push. We want him to be healthy going into the divisional round, going into the conference championship, right? The MVP is cool, but seeding is even better. We want to get the first round bye in the regular season, but we also don't want to put Josh Allen at risk of major injury. We don't want to travel down to Arrowhead this upcoming year for a playoff game. We want that in Orchard Park. And that's, I think, the bridge where this conversation says, hey, I really value Josh Allen as MVP candidate, but I care more about hoisting the Lombardi. Again, I think we'd all choose home field advantage if it means that Josh Allen is ready to go throughout the playoffs, right? We would rather have home field advantage even rather than Josh Allen winning the MVP, I should say. But the optimistic side of this, the offensive line gets by without major injuries. The weapons will increase production from a passing volume and passing touchdown level, but we could run away with the 1 seed. But the alarm, the hesitation is with the lingering defensive back injuries that we have with Hairston and now Trey White. Allen may have to do a little bit more work in these shootouts. And honestly, if he takes a couple nasty hits and we're winning by a touchdown or two, and even in like the third quarter, I might be of the opinion that we just want to take him out. I don't want to put our future, I don't want to put our team at risk because we know how valuable of a player he is. He's freaking coming off he's coming off of winning the MVP from last year, but ultimately we've got to strike this balance where we win games, but we don't put Josh Allen in the position to potentially get hurt. And so does Josh Allen repeat in 2025 with the MVP award? I don't know. I honestly, it's not that high of a priority for me. But again, we care more about hoisting the Lombardi. So we've got to strike this balance. Our coaching staff has to strike this balance. And ultimately, it's going to matter what's happening with our defensive back room. Because if our defense holds up and our front seven actually does get pressure, we might not need that level of play, a higher level of play, because we'll get maybe we'll have the opposite of coverage sacks. We'll have actually good pressure on the quarterback on the inside and the outside. So if Trey White isn't ready for week one, if Maxwell Hairston isn't ready for week one, how does McDermott patch it, right? How is that going to work out? We need to talk about that in more depth tomorrow. So, hey, again, like and subscribe, follow, and we'll be talking about that more in depth. But our secondary is definitely our greatest area of concern. But as far as it goes with Josh Allen and MVP hopes and that unfinished business that he does have, we want him to win the MVP, but we care about the first round bye and we care about the Lombardi more than any personal awards. This is a team sport. This isn't a Josh Allen sport. We love Josh Allen. We want every bit of his success, but we care about the Lombardi. This is Crack the Table. All Bills, no breaks. Like and subscribe to stay locked in. We'll see you tomorrow.